You just have to be confident knowing that, okay, what I see in the mirror is a person who is trying their best day in and day out, and they're doing everything they can to make the people around them better. And if you can look in the mirror and say that to yourself,
if you can say yes to both of those,
then you're on your way.
That's a great start.
First and foremost, what's tomorrow?
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day. I literally looked up like just self-love. Like I wanted to see how other people quantified it. Like what was that thing you read earlier? You're reading it over FaceTime.
It was I think it was a psychology magazine.
Okay.
Or a psychology blog.
Okay.
Psychology Today, something like that. But yeah, that paragraph was a nice little excerpt.
Do you think, do you remember anything? I just remember a part of it said like, there's a healthy level, but not getting too caught up in yourself when it comes to self-love.
Yeah.
It was saying like when it comes to self.
They're saying it's easy to like dip into narcissism and an overwhelming sense of arrogance whenever you think that nothing matters except for what you do and you care about the only thing you care about is yourself. Mm-hmm. But I forget the exact verbiage that they were using, but that was
and in the self-help or in the self-love stuff, a lot of the common traits that they were expressing, similar to a lot of these ancient concepts, a lot of these ancient traits, was the idea of first loving yourself before you can extend that arm of love to anybody else. And that's what they all kept saying. They all kept saying, love yourself before you can really get to love others. Because if there's a toxic disdain, low key that you have for yourself, that will inevitably manifest itself in your interactions with other people.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that the prerequisite to loving others and loving yourself is super important. Mm-hmm. And it just allows you to have a broader range of offerings to other people. Right. Because at the end of the day, at least for me, and I know you get a lot of value from this too, is whenever you have something valuable to offer to someone else and you're able to fulfill that, you get, it's like an internal sense of fulfillment, even though you're offering your services to other people.
Right.
But you can't really have something quality to offer if you're not in tune with yourself to the level of degree that it requires. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. It's like when you can allocate certain, let's just say, actual applicable things in your life to start getting to know yourself better, you can dispense and give out that same stuff that helped you to other people. And that's that sort of service you're talking about, that selfless service. And it's an ironic concept. And I wrote about it in that book, bro. Like it's an ironic concept that, like I said, the ancient people understood is you have to first be selfish before you can become selfless. You have to first selfishly get to know yourself, but not weeding into, like you said, the toxic arrogance of getting to know yourself, of getting to love yourself. But you need to get to know yourself and solidify that knowledge of self before you can extend your hand to start actually serving others to the best ability that you could serve others. Everything we've been talking about up to this point, even though low-key I've been rambling, but everything we've been talking about centers around the concept of people not having enough self-worth, let's say. And that's where the self-love even comes from in the first place. Like you don't really have to seek out self-love if you're already secure in, let's say, your own self-worth.
I think that a lot of people have a deluded idea that self-love and happiness is like a destination or like it's going to be like, it's just going to, you know what I mean? One day they're going to find it. Right. It's like, no, it's not just going to fall upon you. You have to actively seek that out. First, you have to realize that it is attainable. Then you have to realize if you are worthy enough for it. Right. You know what I mean? You can have all the happiness in your life. You can have all the things. You can have great relationships, but you will never be fully content if you are not happy with yourself.
So where does that worth come from? Like that worthiness, like saying that you're worthy of it. Where
does that come from? It comes from an internal sense of being comfortable with yourself and knowing that it's hard because some people just don't have the real life experience, like the tangible things to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm worthy. You know what I mean? And a lot of people seek that outward approval from others. You know, as children, it's like, oh, Mom, are you proud of me? Dad, are you proud of me? I'm getting this sense of fulfillment from outside. Right. And you grow up like that as a kid, and that goes and extends through your adult years, and you are running off of this one mode of living and receiving approval this and feeling pride. Approval. Right. Yeah. And so it takes a shift in your perspective to realize that that sense of approval and that sense of pride and worthiness can be mustered from internally.
Right.
And then once you do that, you don't need that. Yeah, it's nice to hear like, damn, bro, you did a good job.
Right.
But it's not it's not your drive in life.
The ability to realize that external stimuli is simply that, it's external stimuli. And the minute you can start differentiating like, yeah, people's opinion of me, quote unquote, matters to a degree, but it only matters in the sense of recognizing things that you may not like. The whole point of caring about people's opinion from a straight like, what's the word? Anthropic point of view, from like a humanistic point of view. Like we're social creatures. So as social creatures, we have to find our place in the hierarchy of our relative society. And back in the day, it was just in tribes and shit, right? So like you do that if you have siblings, so you know, when you have a family of siblings, you have to find your way in that group of individuals. And in finding that way, there's a inevitable humbling that occurs because you realize that you're not the center of attention. You're not the center of so nowadays, here's the problem. People don't necessarily have groups that they belong to. Like people don't even know their neighbors. You know what I'm saying? Like people don't know their neighbors.
They don't give a fuck because we have screens.
Right.
We have ways of virtually connecting with other people, even though these other people have no idea who you are.
Right.
But somehow our society has created a way for people to feel that without feeling this.
But they don't. That's the thing. I don't think they feel this.
They don't, because you can't feel this unless it is this.
Right. And that
it's pretty vague, but
no, that lack of interpersonal connectability that only happens when you have all the dimensional components to create that connectability, which is being face to face with somebody, that is so irreplaceable, that is so invaluable that people are misconstruing how they actually value face-to-face conversations and face-to-face, let's just say, socializing, right? So not only do you have the variable of there being technology as a hindrance to people's ability to feel like they belong to a group, but it's also amplifying the falsehood that they're belonging to a group when, again, they're missing the dimensional component of really being a part of that group. So they still have this intrinsic loneliness that lingers. And that lingering loneliness that they share can be helped. It can be helped mitigated by simply first trying to love and fix yourself. Trying to first find yourself in your own place, in your own life, and then seeing where you fit in the group. And that's the thing. People are trying to jump to the
other way around.
Right.
You're allowing your external environment to define who you are.
Right. But you have to define yourself through the experiences of your external environment.
Easier said than done.
Way easier said than done, especially when you can't control the nurturing environment from which you were raised. Some people aren't blessed with a nurturing environment. You know what I'm saying? Especially relative in 2021, most people's environments, especially in the Western world, are relatively utopic compared to how families had to deal with hardship just a couple hundred years ago. So that's relative. But the trauma and the shitty upbringing that people can still experience in 2021 is real. And the realness of that, especially coupled with the technology, especially coupled with the lack of interpersonal relationships, that only weighs down the lack of self-worth that those people are feeling. And it isn't until you muster up the courage legit and have enough tools in your tool belt to where you can start climbing out of that hole, climb out of that downward curve and start making your way towards an upward trajectory.
What do you think are some things that people can do to try to muster up that courage and start really feeling better about themselves and loving themselves more?
First and foremost is optimize your health. And you came out with a great quote one time. We were talking about it not too long ago. Was it the World Health Organization, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, literally.
The definition of health by the World Health Organization is it's about not only your physical, but your mental and social well-being despite the absence of disease. Right. So when people think about health, they just think body, disease, you know what I mean?
Like I'm sick.
Oh, damn, are you healthy? Okay, cool. You look, pretty good height and weight. You must be a healthy person. But is your mental space good? Are your social relationships well?
Exactly.
Because those play a factor in your overall well-being. So I think those are super important. But
right, yeah. So that's perfect. So the first step people must take when it comes to self-loving yourself is being able to look in the mirror and be confident, at least in who is looking back at you. Now, that confidence doesn't mean you have to see 20-inch arms and a six-pack and all this perceivable, external, quote unquote, great things. You just have to be confident knowing that, okay, what I see in the mirror is a person who is trying their best day in and day out, and they're doing everything they can to make the people around them better. And if you can look in the mirror and say that to yourself,
if you can say yes to both of those,
then you're on your way.
That's a great start.
Great start. And how do you even muster up the courage to start really asking the right questions to come to those right answers?
I think one of them that you were touching on at the very beginning was taking care of your physical body. When you take care of that, it's because the big thing with the looking in the mirror literally is the visual. Right. It's like, okay, am I content with how I look, how my body is? A lot of people have body images, and that is due in part from the unattainable perfection that social media exhibits.
Especially what's hilarious is the initials of Instagram being IG, because the instant gratification that people now have and the anticipation that they should be gratified instantly is heightenedly satiated through Instagram and through social media, through the idea that, oh, low key, this jacked ass bodybuilder.
Yeah, it's like, oh, look what I did in 6 weeks.
It's like no, you had savage genetics, and then you probably low key did some juice, like you did some shit. So it's like, quit trying to tell these people who have like actual physical ailments or blockages preventing them to get into that level that you're at, and be real with them and just telling them that, look, you don't have to look like me. You don't have to get to this degree. You don't have to, like, I think me and you are a perfect example of what like realistic fitness looks like, where we optimize our health based off of what the human anatomy is most conducive to for long-term health from that physical perspective. And again, that physical health, once it's at least acknowledged and put on the right path of progress, you can then focus on the mental health, because that physical health, the feel from which you feel your body, and the physical repercussions like the endorphins and the dopamine increase and all that stuff you get from working out in the first place. When you work out, you get these things called endocannabinoids. Don't even get me started on the actual chemistry of it. Yeah, I know. But point is, you fix that physical side, you start getting that influx of positive chemicals in your body. Then you top it off with the proper nutrition and proper dietary structure, and literally you'll have no choice but to start seeing things in a clear light, and you'll start seeing yourself in the mirror in a more objective way, to where the answers to those two questions become essentially yes and yes. I'm doing everything I can to optimize myself, and I'm doing everything I can to optimize those that I surround myself with.
I think that some
really good ass questions.
That was great. Yeah.